Hi folks, let's talk a little bit about power. Power is defined as the rate or the speed at which work is done. Or another way of saying it is how fast energy is used. Or if you're talking about the power of an appliance, how quickly will it consume energy or how quickly will it actually do its job. Here's the equation for power. Copy this down, put it on your formula sheet. Power is measured in watts. W here is work, work is in joules, and T is time. So this power equation we're going to use all over the place. Now the watt is the metric unit of power, and it's so nice to actually bump into a metric unit that's familiar. You have been buying light bulbs in wattages for years. You're very familiar with that. This is another derived unit, one of those combo packs that got used so often that a new unit was named for it. And the definition of a watt comes from that equation for power, work divided by time. Work is measured in joules divided by time in seconds, and that is 1 watt. Now, why the name Watt? James Watt, in the Industrial Revolution, so we're talking early 1800s, throughout the 1800s basically, there was a big tendency for technology to start replacing what people and animals were doing by hand. And James Watt invented the steam engine. Now, when I think steam engine, I think choo-choo train and something that's going to go chugging down the track. Well, the kind of steam engine that James Watt first produced was a steam engine that looked something like this. He designed it to be stationary, and he designed it to replace people and animals. So when James Watt was traveling across Britain trying to sell or market his steam engine to industry and to business owners, he coined the phrase horsepower. And 1 watt in his day was supposed to be equivalent to the amount that 1 draft horse could do. So if he sold you a 1 horsepower engine, it could replace 1 of your draft horses. If you had a 2 horsepower engine, it could replace 2 of your draft horses, etc. It worked, and engines took over an awful lot of the animal and human labor. But today we have defined the horsepower as 746 watts, and that is the English unit of power. Now you're familiar with wattage. Wattage is power, and power is how much work can be done per unit time. That is a relationship of speed, or how fast work is done, or how quickly energy can be transformed from one form into another. Let's look at a couple different places where I know you've encountered this. Have you ever noticed that if I like to warm up tea and coffee, water, etc. in a microwave oven. So some microwaves I put the water in and it takes about 2 minutes. It doesn't take long at all. Well, my husband, my darling husband, bought me a really cheap microwave a few years back. Honest to goodness, the microwave, brand new, cost $15, and he said, "This would be great for your office at the college." I went, "Oh, cool, all right." Well, it was 500 watts. So if I take the same amount of water, because of the fact that the wattage is 1/3 of the wattage I use for my home microwave, it takes me not 2 minutes to get my cup of water up hot enough so I can make tea. It actually takes it 6 minutes. And that is what wattage refers to, how fast energy can be transformed from one form into another form. If you've got 1/3 the wattage, what are you going to do in return? You are going to spend 3 times the time. But which one is more energy efficient? Which one costs more or less? Here's the wacky thing. The cost is for each is going to be exactly the same because you're paying for what you get out. You're actually paying for energy. And even though this little microwave is pokey and slow, it does the same job and it costs the same. You just gotta take your time. Now, another thing you may have encountered, I'm pretty sure you've encountered, is light bulbs. A 100-watt light bulb and a 25-watt light bulb. This is how quickly electricity can be transformed into light. Well, In a 100-watt light bulb, you're going to get a lot more lumens, which are a measurement of how much light something emits, from a 100-watt light bulb compared to a 25. A 25-watt light bulb is going to have about 1/4 the lumens that a 100-watt light bulb. It is a transformation from one kind of energy into another. In a light bulb, from electricity into light, and the byproduct, which is one of the reasons incandescent light bulbs are going away, the byproduct of those is heat. Now, heat can suck energy out of systems and can be very, very inefficient. That's why we are starting to get LED, light-emitting diode light bulbs, that are much more expensive up front, but they will save you massive amounts of money when it comes to energy. So this light bulb actually has a 100-watt equivalent number of lumens, that is amount of light it's going to produce, but it only takes 14.5 watts of power. What does that mean? That means it's like 6 2/3 of these light bulbs can be run for the same amount of time as one of those. That's pretty nifty. So wattage, when you think wattage combined with time, that equals money. Speaking of money, when you pay your electric bill, you pay it in a weird, crazy unit, and it's called the kilowatt hour. All right, let's break this term down. Kilo means 1,000. Watt is a joule per second, and hours is time. Now, I know hours and seconds are not the same units, but that's time and that's time. You throw in a little fudge factor having to do with the time transformation, and what you are actually paying the electric company for is joules. And what does joules measure? Joules measures energy. So that is why you are actually paying the energy bill when you pay the electric bill. Now, if you want to calculate the cost of any sort of an appliance, it's pretty simple. You need to know its wattage, and you need to know how many days, hours per day it's going to operate. So we're going to go through a couple examples. Let's say I have a 60-watt light bulb, and I run it 4 hours a day, couple hours in the morning, couple hours in the evening, depending upon the time of year. So 4 times 60, this is going to be 240 watt hours. Well, I don't want watt hours, I want kilowatt hours. So I'm going to move my decimal 3 places. So 0.24 kilowatt hours. Now there are 30 days in a month, so I multiply that by 30. And when I do that, I end up with 7.2 kilowatt hours that I'm using in 1 month. Now, your power company has a cost per kilowatt hour. You can look on your electric bill, and that's going to be printed there. In the country, depending upon where you live, the cost is going to range. Some places it is as cheap as 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Some places in the U.S. it will be well over 20 cents per kilowatt hour. It is definitely not standard throughout the country, and it is certainly not standard even throughout the year. Typically, there are government subsidies making it a smidge cheaper in the winter than in the summer. So I'm going to use a halfway point. I'm going to use 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So if I take 7.2 kilowatt hours times 15 cents per kilowatt hour, how much does it cost me to run this light bulb for 4 hours a day for a month? $1.08. Now you might go, that's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. But how many light bulbs do you have? And how many do you leave on when you walk out of the room or leave on when you leave the house? That's money. Let's do another one. And if you feel confident, hit pause, try it, and then come back and we'll do it together. Now let's say I've got a 250 watt TV, which is pretty average for a modern flat screen television. Now, if I run that for, let's say, 8 hours a day. Now you might go, holy buckets, Mary, that's a lot of television watching. Yeah, but I know a lot of people who just leave it on most of the day. So if I go 250 watts times 8 hours per day, that's going to be 2,000 watt hours. Move my decimal, 1, 2, 3. That's 2 kilowatt hours times 30 days in a month. So that is going to get me up to 2 times 2 times 30, so that's going to be 6 kilowatt hours, 60 kilowatt hours per month. And back to my 15 cents per kilowatt hour for my cost of electricity, what's that going to be? About $9 a month for a lot of entertainment. Again, it's not bad. So why do some of you have electric bills that are hundreds of dollars? Because you have a lot of appliances that you're running. I apologize. I wish I could make your energy bills become nothing, but this can be kind of fun. Keep an eye on your appliances and the wattages and how many hours you use them. Last thing about power before we leave is this. This is a useful, we're just going to call this a useful transformation that some students see on their own and some do not. And that is, sometimes you're going to be given some weird pieces of information and asked to solve for power. Well, power is work divided by time. Work is force times displacement. So if I put that in there, power is force times displacement over time. What's displacement over time? That's actually velocity. So another very useful format of this equation is power is force times constant or average velocity. And once in a while, that little rearrangement, boy, that'll make a problem easier. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.